Morning, let's get straight into it. Thank you very much for coming to listen to me. My name is Lance Rasmussen. General member of the public, basically with a keen interest in orchids and indigenous flora and fauna. I was with the municipality for 40 years as a horticulturist and a manager. Retired now and spend a lot of my time in the bush looking mainly for the indigenous terrestrial and epiphytic orchids. And then home just grown a few of the exotic species only. But yeah, let's get straight into it. Today's talk, it says it's about grow, don't mow. If you see there, that's the Eulotia, that's the little yellow Eulotia speciosa, which we see on the N2 all the time. And before that gets available to finish flowering or set seed, it gets mowed down. As well as a lot of other little flowers in there that come up in South African climate, particularly over the sort of spring to summer to late autumn. If we look at the names, this is the name, it's always roadside ecology, roads, reserve, conservation, rewilding, green corridors. The latest one is, that come out now is rewilding. That means getting back to basics, getting back to nature on the verges. To me, the rewilding is more of a sort of residential suburb type setup, where you've got a homeowner who's got a small verge, or 2 or 3 homeowners have got a small verge, and they get it cut once a week. It gets cut with cut and weeded and just basically it's basically sterile. It's just like grass areas. So what they want to do rewilding is getting back the indigenous stuff onto those verges. So you eventually have what I call is like a green corridor. So if you've got 8 verges in, say, Smith Street, and 10 verges in West Street, and there's an open space or a park there, it's a green corridor. Wildlife can move along it, move along it, move along it, move along it. A good example, if people can remember the one up in Manning Road, Jeff Nichols did. That's a good example of a green ecology, road reserve conservation and road side ecology. But I will go up to rewilding just at the end. We're getting a bit worried about the pressure for the slideshow. So basically, what is roadside ecology? At the moment, it's conserving, protecting the last remaining remnants of road verge in pristine condition, connecting the fragmented landscape, as I said, with the green corridor. International practice, once again, South Africa lacking in environmental projects and the environmental side of things. There are some projects in the Western Cape to protect the fynbos, the municipality. So it is big down in the Western Cape. And then the last thing is the rewilding is converting existing manicured verges. This is just an example of, there are 3 basically known active sites of rewilding conservation. As Forest Hills Primary School, they had it going up and they stopped for a few years, now they're putting it up again, getting it into place. So if you're ever up in Forest Hills, go to Forest Hills Primary School and you'll see a prime example of regeneration, rewilding. And the other one is, as I said, the Manning Road, another new name now, and then another one is at Chongweni, which is the one I'm going to talk about now. Chongweni, protecting nature, inspiring change. That's the pilot project area. It's in the Chongweni area, sort of upper highway. We all know where Chongweni, Summerveld, and the Summerveld where all the racehorses are, trainers. That's the project aerial photograph. It basically starts from there and goes right to the end of the road. It's in funny, all where there are these manicured these houses, all the verges have been maintained and cut and planted with all a lot of exotic stuff. And it's just this area here to basically here and halfway up to here is where there was a little district wood was found. These are still prime sandveld, southland grasslands. Why it all happened? Why did we do a no-mow zone? Got a letter from Jocelyn Sutherland that she had gone out to some of the place to look for Discus woodia, a little orchid up the top, and they found it. Fine. 2 weeks later they went back to see if there were any more. And what had actually happened? Boom. Everything cut down with a brush cutter. So she got a hold of Parks and said, we must do something with that. And that's when the project started in 2018, which I was responsible for. That's a traditional roadside grass cutting practice. just with you see them on the N2s and all over the place where they cut the verges up to 6 times a year. Traditional practice, that would just be cut. All those are flowering down the banks, they'll start flowering now in September, and they'll be cut 2 weeks later. It's important though, with your roadside river, leaving everything to go back to its wild condition has to be managed. You can't just leave it and let the grass come through, because within 10 minutes it's full of invalid acids and a lot of plastic and litter. So it's got to be managed. You can't just think, okay, I'm rewilding my verge, just let it grow. You've got to manage it. You've got to have a system of management. This is the rationale for the pilot project about the roadside verge ecology was Shongweni, the area is in near pristine condition with fauna biodiversity, and the most important is on the KwaZulu-Natal sandstone southveld, which is, there's only I think about 10% of its original coverage left in South Africa. Used to extend right the way from top of Fields Hill right through to Cater Ridge and up to the back of Inanda area there. But we know all the development that's gone along Inanda Road. All that grassland is gone. All the orchids, all the biodiversity. And these are some of the little flowers. There's the orchid just before the other one that was the pilot project was initiated for. Here's another one. And these are some of your normal other types of flowers. The area that we did was a verge area. It was about what, 5 meters wide by about 200, 250 meters long. And that was just some of the stuff that was growing in there, in amongst the grass. So it was the verge was in a near pristine condition. So there were not only orchids, there were a lot of other little flowers that were growing in there. So it was worth getting into and turning it into a no-mow zone. The pilot project, orchids documented, it started off as Discus woodia. That was the first one that we thought we would save. And when we managed it, we didn't cut it, we let it a bit of a natural take over. We found another 5 different orchid species that were flowering on that same verge. Now comes the challenge, because they're all flowering at a different time. This one, amazingly, is April, May. So autumn, winter. These are sort of late spring, early summer, into the end of January. So it's a bit of a challenge to manage the whole area. And you're still learning it. There's the little gem of the whole place, the little Discus woodia. It's about the size of your thumbnail. It's a little open, pink. It's called the granny's bonnet orchid. And that's what we were looking to get. We were looking to get, that's the seed. What had been happening before, it would be grow flower, then it would, or before it was even flowering, it used to be cut down. Now, since we managed it with the no-mow grow policy, that's the seed that has been setting. So that's fine. There should be enough seed to continue with the little population out there. The current situation, it's important when we talk about management. Shongweni has a very pristine sandfeld southward roads. Obviously the roads, some of them are tar, but the majority of them are gravel. The old days used to be cut from here right to the top of the bank, which was like 5 meters. And then amongst that there's some orchids, there's a whole lot of those other plants which we saw. And we said, no man, why can't they just cut a strip at the bottom, 2 to 3 meters strip at the bottom of the road. Obviously you have to keep it like that, you have to have a vehicular safety. You can't have bush growing grass encroaching the road. So it was more for, that is more for vehicular and for pedestrian safety. But other than that, let that go, no mow and manage it. You can see it there, and that's the area, that's the orchid, and this was its stronghold, was from, as I said, about 100 meters back to the little power box that's over here. And you can see how now that's been cut, that has been left to grow. And on top of this grassland area here, and on this bank, there are a lot of these little Discus woodia. That could have been cut every 6 weeks, the verge would have been cut, but now it's not. There's the other thing, that's Dowser woodia, you see it's set seed. So we're managing it not only for the woodia, but all the other orchids too. And that's just a current no-mow zone. It's just basically just some sort of documentation on what is out there. The current zone, just what it is. And what has made it a success up to date is it's reconnected a fragmented landscape because, as I said, out there, there are a lot of open spaces out there, undeveloped, privately owned land, and these little verge areas are backing onto that. So they're protecting it, they're looking after it. So you've got wildlife corridors where your moths, your caterpillars, your birds, they can move along, move along, move along, move along, and don't have to end up crossing so many freeways or roads where they'll get squashed. Interesting fact, 3 years later, we found an albino form of the district. This is the most important thing, it's documented data. For years, we know where things are, people know where they are, they know the names, but no one knows how many of them are, where they're growing, how they're doing. It's only lately that we've come into, through Sandy and BOTSOC with the citizen scientist programs and crew, that we really got to know endemic and indigenous flora and document it on these natural green heritages. It's to start a new way of grass cutting, especially out in the areas where it allows, or not really. So there are some of the areas in your built up public residencies, as I said, it doesn't really allow for that long verge area, but that's separate little verges can be planted up. But it's difficult to let go, because then you have to replant again, all with the natural grasses, dig it up, natural grasses, rocks, plants, and everything. Whereas up where it's pristine condition, the verges in pristine condition, old natural conditions, those are the ones that basically should be worked on now. I've always said, whatever's happened has happened, let it go. But don't let anything go, especially up in the sandstone. The objectives is basically you've got to balance your road safety. That's very important. As I said, the maintenance of the whole thing is infrastructure maintenance and biodiversity. Make sure it complies with legislation, road bylaws, so it's not encroaching into the road, etc., etc. We protected 6 African indigenous orchids and their natural vulnerable habitat. The Daza, the Discus woodya was the one that was really the concern. The other 5, I can say it's wrong, and people say it's wrong for us to say very, very common, because then you think, oh, don't worry about it. But they are the ones that you would see. But we're seeing less and less of them, because people have thought they were so common. And obviously the pilot project was presented at our Environmental and Recreation Management Conference, attended by private and local government decision and policy makers. That's important. You've got to get the government, local government, municipality into it, and government, Rail, Department of Transport, the roads, get those policy makers involved. Lessons learned so far, still a little learning what to do, the no-mow verge. No need to cut it, you have to cut, burn, prevent aggressive vegetation takeover. As I said, that is managed. It's got to be managed. You can't just go and say, right, I'm turning it into a natural verge, rewilding that verge, leave it, turn it back and go away, come back in 6 months. You've got to be there to manage it. What we found, I was looking at, okay, now which is the best way to incorporate all the orchids that we found? Originally it started off, I thought, oh, we may have to sacrifice other indigenous flora and cut at a different time, and then save the district woodya. But after documentation, going out there for a year or 2, I found that middle of March, end of March, everything basically that was there had actually finished flower, or had died down. Even the little forbs and the little verbenas and the little flowers, they'd actually all packed up. They were ready now to go into a dormant. So I found that that was the best time to cut and remove that cut vegetation from that verge. And so Discus woodya was the one that started the no-mow practice cycle for the year. So what it is the verges would used to be cut 6 times a year, or even sometimes even more. Now that verge gets cut once a year in March, and the other time it's left to go wild, and for the orchids and the other flowers to grow and set seed, etc., etc. But as I said, it's got to be managed. Ongoing challenges, a lot of challenges, maintaining the roadside ecology, care and balancing act. You need to do weekly visits to the site. And this is the most important thing, is research on grassland ecology to form the practices to support roadside grassland diversity. That's an important one too, because research on grassland, because what we know is orchids, indigenous orchids, a lot of the stuff, indigenous orchids is reliant on, they say, burning. They normally say indigenous orchids, when they burn an area, it encourages and you get a more flush of indigenous orchids. Now I don't know, with the Discus woodya, whether that's part of the same ones, that requires a burning, a hot burn for it to come out again in the new year. So there's a lot of research, and grassland management, just grassland management, sandstone, South-Alp grassland management is, you can spend your entire life just documenting and working on that. It's such a diverse piece of biodiversity. And this is the big one that needs to happen, is all our national roads and M roads are maintained basically by SANRail and Department of Transport. So if you look at the M7, the M13, a lot of them are just alien alleys. The N2 is the one that looks okay because that's basically cut up to 5-6 times a year. But to any government organisation, it's difficult to get hold of the people that are going to make the policy changes. It's difficult to get hold of them. It's difficult for them to get buy-in. Because I know Lee's would be in there to get people to buy in and people to just think how important it is, instead of just saying, oh no, there's another little greenie, he doesn't know what's going on, leave him, you won't do anything about it. It's nothing. You've got more important things to worry about than that. So it's important that meetings with those go on. I've left now in 5 years. There should be some, I left contact details, but I don't know whether it's actually meetings been going on. I don't think so. But that's the most important one, is getting the role players involved. Now, has it been a success? Looking at it, that's just some crude an annual count. 2017, 50 plants. 2018, 80 plants. 2019, 37. This year, 7. Maybe this roadside ecology thing doesn't work. Maybe we should have just left the grass, let the bush, and cut it 6 times a year and raked it. But no, as far as I'm concerned, those were when it was taken over. That's where we went. So it was okay. 2021, 2022, all right. A little bit down in figures. But then speaking to the orchid fundis, they actually said that Discus woodya phonetically is classified as a primary species, which takes hold, stays there for 4, 5, 6, up to 10 years, and then goes. And then you'll find it growing again in another 5 years' time. And I think where the problem this year, 2023, we found 7 plants. I thought, hold on here now. With this going down, the numbers going down, I'm not going to cut that virginal, leave it as though it was naturally, and try and cut it 6 times a year. And we did that. Instead of cutting it once a year, we cut it every 6 weeks, we raked the grass, etc., etc. We had a lot of rain. End of March, you should have cut it down, the grass is still very long. And April, May, when it started flying, we only found 7 plants. So, is it the cutting? Does it have to be? Is it the cutting that caused the problems? I don't think so. I think what really happened, we had a very exceptional summer, late rainy season. And the grass in that area got very, very long. And this little disperse, it's only about 5 to 10 centimeters high, the whole plant. And I think the grass got too long. Maybe we missed a lot. We go back to the one. Where is it? Power box. Anyway, we'll find. Yeah, so I don't know, but these are questions that have to be answered. But the pilot project has worked as far as I'm concerned. Interesting, we saw flowers next year again, but this one was an interesting fact where we just had to do its own thing and get it back to what it was. But I still think it was because of the height of the grass. It was very, very high. The grass was waist high. And they grow in the grass tussocks, so maybe they did flower or just, I don't know. Interesting, but that's the question that are going to be asked, especially in these projects. That's why it's not just a once-off thing. You need continuity, and that is the problem. When you get someone on a project, whatever project you do, rewilding or no-mow zones, I retired. Whoever took over from me, off the record, I did on video, I can't say, okay, then people have got to be interested. It's got to have a passion for that. And then the ones that just will go back to whatever it was. Then you bear me out, hey? And just some other ones. This is on the road to Paddock up in that way, in Gaelic Forest. We saw the little dars in the boat. So this is now basically, I think they did this not, I asked the chap, try and get hold of the chap to find out, did you do this intentionally to only cut off the bottom and leave the bank? But I didn't get any luck from whoever I phoned, whoever I spoke to. And this is on the roads out to Ngedi, out towards Paddock, going out towards Coxhead way. Little dars in the boat, so that was saved. You see, that was, I used their brains and only cut up to sort of 2-3 meter strip. Normally they would cut from there right to the fence and the forest line, because the Department of Forestry or the SAP would say that's going to be burned for fire break. But I don't know, I haven't been back there whether they did it on purpose or they're just going to do that all the time now, just a 2-3 meter strip and let the bank grow. I don't know. A lot of questions to be answered. That's it, the dars in the bosa. That's the little one that I showed you. And then on the same bird, the Centurion Spirographin. And this I found too up in St. Helia, on one of the verges in St. Helia area in Hillcrest. This was up. I think what had actually happened, there was a house for sale that hadn't been sold. So the verge had gone back to natural grasslands up there. And there's still other exotic plants in, but in amongst it was the Centurion. So when you do wild stuff, does come back, and it does come back pretty quickly. That's the other one, Centurion maculata. These are little wild orchids that we found on in that area. And just a quick thing, where there used to be a thing, wild orchid South Africa. Unfortunately, that's not going too well because of COVID and the passing on of the chairman, but that's something that needs to be up and running again. And then that's the mission, it's not a really vision. And that's the photographs and all that. And that just threw in a few extra things. I don't know, this is my favourite. Everyone been up to Verluring Fillet up in Dalstrip. If you ever get a chance, go up there. Very similar to the Berg, same altitude as our Berg, but up there to the indigenous orchids that you'd find up there. And that's the how to those are little white orchids and grass across stuff here. That's the different types of stony well drained grass and very, very nice if you can get up there. Very similar to Drakensberg, but up there the bird life is important. They've got the crown crane, they've got the three crane types up there. And let's just look at the perennial streams with houses growing along, and that's very, very nice if you can get up there for the use of information, and that's just a different growing condition. Yeah, thanks very, very much. Thank you for listening.